Good Erev Shabbos. In this week's Parsha, Korach makes an unbelievable claim. Ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim ubesocham Hashem umadua tisnasu al kahal Hashem. Korach tells Moshe Rabbeinu that the entire congregation is holy. And he asks Moshe, why do you elevate yourself above the Jewish people? And we have to ask, what kind of claim is this? This is Moshe Rabbeinu. The same Moshe Rabbeinu that took the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. The same Moshe Rabbeinu that split the Yam Suf. The same Moshe Rabbeinu that brought the Torah down onto Har Sinai. How could Korach ask, Umadua tisnasu al kal Hashem, how Moshe elevates himself above the Jewish people? And if this was just Korach making the claim, we might be able to write it off to foolishness and megalomania. But the Parsha tells us that Korach convinced 250 of the Roshei Sanhedrin, 250 of the greatest leaders in the Jewish people, to join his rebellion. And therefore, it is incumbent upon us to take a deeper look at this claim. The Gemara in Shabbos tells us that it is impossible to peddle a lie, to peddle sheker, without that sheker containing a kernel of truth. And the greater the lie, the deeper the kernel of truth needs to be. So what was this kernel of truth that existed within Korach's claim? The Tanya tells us that within every Jew, there is a divine spark, a chelik Elokah mima'al, a piece of Hashem on high. And at the highest level of that soul, of that spark, there exists a point known as the Yechida, that rests under the Kisei HaKavod. And on the level of Yechida, every Jewish soul is connected to the Or Ein Sof, to the divine light of Hashem. And on that level, every Jew is exactly the same. When Hashem reveals himself to the world in his full infinitude, this spark is drawn out of the Jewish soul, and it connects to Hashem like a magnet. And that's what took place on Har Sinai. The Medrash Rabbah tells us that before HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke the first two dibros, he told Moshe Rabbeinu to descend from the mountain and to stand equal with the rest of the Jewish people. Because at that moment, when Hashem's infinity is revealed to the world, every Jew reaches an equilibrium. Every Jew stands on the same level. Because on that level of Yechida, on that chelik Elokah mima'al, every Jew is exactly the same. And in fact, la'asid lavo, when Hashem reveals his infinite light to the world, we will experience this once again. The pasuk tells us in Yirmiyahu, Hine yamim ba'im ne'um Hashem. There are days coming, says Hashem. V'lo yilamdu od ish es re'ehu, v'ish es achiv. And no longer will there be teachers and students. No longer will one Jew teach another. Le'mor du'u es Hashem, to seek the knowledge of God. Ki kulam yedu osi, because every Jew will know Hashem. Lemiktanam ve'ad gedolam, from the smallest Jew to the greatest one. Everyone will exist within that equilibrium, standing next to Hashem's infinity. And to understand this, we can imagine that if one were to take the number 1 and the number 1,000 and to put it on a scale next to infinity, do you think you would notice the difference between 1 and 1,000 relative to infinity? When Hashem reveals his infinitude to the world, everything equalizes, and every Jew is Kadosh. And in fact, the Arizal tells us that this is what will happen to Korach in the end of days. The Arizal says that Korach is hinted to in the pasuk, Tzadik katamar yifrach, Sofei tevos Korach. The last letter in the word Tzadik is a kuf. The last letter in the word katamar is a resh. And the last letter in the word yifrach is a ches, which spells Korach. And the Be'er Mayim Chaim explains that le'asid lavo, in the end of days, at the Sofei tevos, Korach will sprout like a tamar. He will sprout like a date. And he will reveal that truth of kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim to the Jewish people. Because just like a seed is planted in the ground, and only when the time is right does it sprout to the surface, so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu planted Korach like a seed into that crack in the earth. And le'asid lavo tzaddik katamar yifrach, Korach will sprout to the surface, and he will reveal Kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim to the world. But until that time, the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us that Korach waits in that pit, and he cries out, Moshe emes, the Torasa emes, that Moshe was the one who was speaking the truth. Because until we reach La'asid Lavo, until we reach our destination where Hashem will reveal himself to the world, we must exist within this hierarchy. There must be students and teachers. There must be leaders and followers. There must be Kohanim, Levim, and Yisrael within the Jewish people. Because to do our work, to purify this world, and to conquer the evil that exists, we need these leaders. And we need the followers to attach themselves to the leaders of the Jewish people in order to succeed. But La'asid Lavo, when we reach that destination, we can take solace in the fact that we have that Kedusha within us, that Kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim. And we can tap into that reservoir of Kedusha even before we reach La'asid Lavo. And that is what is going to ultimately get us to our destination. So may we all recognize that that spark exists within us. May we all attach ourselves to our teachers and to the leaders of the Jewish people. And may they guide us to that ultimate destination of Asid Lavo, when we will experience Kol Ha'eda Kulam Kedoshim. Have a beautiful Shabbos.